The primary motivation behind this work is that the incidence of depression and anxiety is a growing concern among college students. Despite the prevalence of these issues, students still face several barriers to care, and the majority of individuals in need of mental health services receive no treatment. This is due to factors such as privacy concerns, high treatment costs, and a lack of resources. In the Global South in particular, which is where our research was conducted, the issue of stigma around mental health is also particularly pertinent. Cognitive behavioral therapy has emerged as a viable treatment which is effective for various mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. The central idea behind CBT is to establish a link between one's thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. CBT is typically delivered in a clinical environment by a psychotherapist over a number of sessions, but given the various obstacles preventing access to traditional psychotherapy, several digital modes of CBT delivery are being explored. Among these, therapist-guided CBT apps have been shown to be as effective as face-to-face sessions, but self-guided interventions are not quite there yet. This is because therapeutic alliance, which is a major factor that contributes significantly to the efficacy of therapies, is not adequately represented in digital interventions. Improving the efficacy of entirely self-guided interventions would make psychotherapy more accessible to a larger number of people and also provide the benefit of anonymity, which is particularly important in the Global South, given the issue of stigmatization. In this paper, we propose a new method of incorporating CBT into a self-guided mHealth application that uses gamification strategies to foster a therapeutic alliance to improve efficacy. We also present recommendations and insights derived from the results of our randomized control trial. Most applications of gamification for general health and well-being tend to rely on positive reinforcement and extrinsic motivation through elements such as points, rewards, and leaderboards, and this approach is difficult to extend to mental health domains. Gamification elements that are more compatible with intrinsic motivation are more relevant for mental health applications, and these include personalization, customization, narrative and theme, and avatars. Gamification can increase a user's engagement as well as intrinsic motivation, which can create a relationship between the user and the application, and therefore emulate a therapeutic alliance within the digital intervention. In addition to narratives promoting engagement as part of gamification, storytelling is also a powerful learning tool. It's the ideal way to present information in a way that's meaningful and can make abstract and complex concepts more accessible. Narratives can effectively influence cognition, emotion, and potentially even behavior. So the unique advantages of storytelling make it clear that it can offer a promising medium to optimize the delivery of relevant mental health information.
Drawing on our research, we developed a solution in the form of a mobile application called Chronicles, which progresses like a role-playing game where users play the main character and find themselves in common scenarios taking place in the college setting. In each scenario, the user is asked to choose from a list of options what their character is feeling, what their character is thinking, and how their character would like to proceed. Based on their thought choices, they will be presented with immediate feedback in the form of a pop-up screen if their selection corresponds to a cognitive distortion. Their action choices will determine how the story progresses. The application is designed to help users identify cognitive distortions present in their thoughts, to clearly differentiate between rational and irrational automatic thoughts, to understand the link between emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, and to provide some insight on how certain situations can be perceived in different ways. In order to contextualize the storylines and present scenarios that are relevant to the users, we conducted extensive user research to collect stories and gather in-depth insights into the different situations students encounter. This was done through questionnaires and interviews. The demographic data of the participants included a diverse representation, which was important for us to ensure an inclusive range of perspectives when developing the narratives. The data was then analyzed to derive a set of themes which form the basis of our narratives. The narratives within each chapter are structured using the cognitive appraisal model, which is based on the principles of CBT and suggests that the way someone interprets any situation or event has an impact on how they feel and what they do. Therefore, it is important to understand the appraisals, and this is what we aim to shed light on through our narratives. The visual design of the application was also an important factor in increasing engagement with the storylines. We took an iterative approach to the visual design, relying on research to inform our initial decisions and user testing to improve further iterations. To complement the contextualized narratives, the landscapes were set in the college campus. While designing the avatars, we focused on inclusivity by creating amorphous body shapes and a wide range of clothing options. The purpose of this study was to examine the impact of combining interactive storytelling and CBT in a gamified mHealth application. We aim to explore the effect of this approach in comparison to existing self-guided CBT apps to assess whether it could improve their efficacy. In order to do this, we designed and conducted a 3-arm randomized controlled trial in which participants were divided into 3 groups: those that use our application, those that use an existing mHealth CBT app, and those that were assigned to a waitlist group. The primary factors that were measured were depression and anxiety. The secondary measures were negative automatic thoughts and perception and learning, which measured if participants were able to identify if an automatic thought was rational or irrational. The data gathered from the RCT was analyzed using paired sample t-tests and Cohen's d within interventions. One-way ANOVA and post-hoc Tuckey's HSD was used between interventions.
Though the eligibility criteria for participants was that they must not be in therapy or currently taking any medication, the initial results for all participants showed that their depression and anxiety scores ranged from mild to severe. This in itself highlights the need for mental health solutions among college students and corroborates the research showing that the majority of individuals with mental health issues do not receive treatment. The results from our RCT show that the Chronicles app users showed a significant decrease in depression, anxiety, and negative automatic thoughts, and a significant increase in perception and learning scores by the end of the trial. These results show that a combination of CBT and interactive storytelling in a gamified mobile app can be an effective self-guided intervention for depression and anxiety, specifically among college students. Comparison with the control group showed that the Chronicles app users had a more significant change in scores at the end of the trial, and this suggests that it's the use of interactive storytelling and gamification elements in the Chronicles app that contributed to its greater efficacy. At the end of the trial, participants were asked to reflect on their experiences. Participants from the test group spoke favorably about the relatability of the storylines and said that this facilitated their ability to position themselves within the narrative and reflect on the choices they made. The contextualization of the visual design also contributed to the level of engagement they felt with the scenarios. Participants appreciated the immediacy and personal relevance of the feedback. The ability to determine one's identity also reflected the increased autonomy that can be achieved through the use of customization and avatars. Participants found it helpful to be able to see how many possible reactions there can be to a single scenario, as this helped them to put situations into perspective. They were able to clearly view their own reactions and tendencies, and as a result, they were able to be more conscious of their thoughts in real life. Some participants felt that the main benefit had been learning about psychological concepts and mentioned that this had motivated them to learn more and take a more proactive approach to mental health. So from this qualitative feedback, we can see that the most important gamification element for increasing engagement and motivation was narrative and theme, followed by personalization and then customization and avatars. Feedback from the control group suggested that participants perceived the CBT Thought Diary app as primarily a place to record rather than to reflect and analyze. They felt that the cognitive restructuring element of the app required too much effort and was often frustrating. This raises the question of whether the efficacy of the CBT Thought Diary app has more to do with the self-monitoring act rather than with the cognitive restructuring element of the application. This is important to consider as it highlights the need to improve current digital interventions in a way that takes advantage of the unique characteristics of technology. On the basis of these insights, we recommend the use of various strategies to cultivate a therapeutic alliance through increased motivation and engagement, such as interactivity, contextualization through narrative and theme, personalization, and customization. Since all these factors are interlinked, we also recommend the medium of storytelling as a viable method that can incorporate all these different elements to provide effective results. We are hopeful that future researchers will benefit from these insights while designing digital solutions for mental health, particularly for college students. Thank you.